So, I think we're going to be taking another look at this Gibson Epiphone strat. So, as you know probably from previous videos, we put a new pre-wired loaded pick guard on it with the two mini humbuckers, normal humbucker at the back. These are coil splitting, both of these and this one too. So it's like having 6 pickups, right? I don't know. So you coil split here, humbucker and single coil, and 5-way switch, volume, 2 tone controls. And in the previous video I said something's wrong with the tone, maybe it ain't wired correctly. Yeah, I don't know, maybe this is how these guys are wired, because I've never had a strat like this. The tone, the 2 tone controls only control the tone of the neck and the middle pickup. This is nothing, no matter which tone knob you turn. This has, and when you have it on the bridge pickup, it does not do anything. Maybe you guys can comment and say, hey, that's how they all are, or they messed up the wiring somehow. After I let it sit for a few days after I did that video, and I brought it back out to test on the amplifier, initially it sounded good, but I noticed a couple things. For one, the low E, especially when I play it through the amp, it's got kind of like like it's hitting a fret or some kind of muting, and we probably need to adjust this saddle here. It could be too far back, so we might have to release it. We never got the intonation right on that, so we might have to replace that. But it's not just that string. So when I started to play it a little bit heavier, I realized there was buzzing. And when I looked at the saddle, the nut, that nut is in too good a shape. It can't be buzzing from that. So I was doing a chord. Obviously I was holding it, the strings down, and some of them are open. So yeah, that was my initial thought. Could it be the nut? But my gut's telling me that that's not the problem. So when I just did it open stringed, no buzz, none of that little muting or whatever you call it coming from the amplifier. None of that noise that like metal hitting metal somewhere. Then I remembered when I was making the other video, the last one, I said, the neck seems like it's too straight or something. It just has that feel to it. So I have probably neck tools, to see if it's straight, but I have no idea where I put all that. I have string height gauges and everything, but who knows where all that stuff is. So when I actually fret it, that's when the buzzing starts. Probably at least 4 of the strings. So I am thinking that the neck, it's basically less tension on the neck because of these strings are a little lighter gauge, and the neck is set for a heavier gauge string, which would bow it slightly inward maybe. So we need to, I guess, artificially create a tiny bit of a bow and it's so strange to me, because usually when you're adjusting a truss rod, especially for an acoustic, it's because over time, the neck needs to be, you need to adjust it clockwise, to give it relief. So that is different. Now we're going to have to do one counterclockwise and see if that gets the buzzing out. So, and I hope that I can set the intonation correctly once that happens, because maybe it's some kind of subtle buzzing, along the frets that are causing the intonation to be out, especially on the low E here. So I do have a new, I guess you call these a boat-like 1/4 plug. I got one of these on order, but it probably won't be here before this video is done. So yeah, that mechanical, just metal on metal sound, even if it's just light, it can kill the sustain. Yeah, and it's killing the sustain on the E string, I think. Like I said, it could be a combination of this being too far back and that, but we will see. Alright, so we probably need to loosen these two strings here so that we can get this cap off here and maybe access it a little bit better. Of course, I put the phone right in my way. Alright, so move the strings over there. Hopefully that's not going to be in the way. Maybe it is a little bit, but we should be able to get the screwdriver in there to get that off. Move the string back some, and yep, we can get to it. Alright, so it should just come right off here somehow. Put that out of the way. As you can see, this is where the Allen key goes in for the truss rod adjustment. Alright, that is too big. This came with a different guitar, so I'll have to find a different size Allen key. So I spent a little while working on it, raising the saddles and adjusting the truss rod. And we eventually got more bow and more bow in it, and I realized that did not fix the string buzzing problem. Of course, raising the saddle did, a little bit. So, and the tremolo springs and all are really tight, really like brand new ones. Tested a whammy bar out from my Jagmaster, and it's really hard to get those springs to stretch, so maybe we need 2 instead of 3 or whatever it has on it. I'm not sure. Or maybe a longer whammy bar that's made for this guy. That'll make it easier to do the whammy bar. Basically though, I'm pretty much come to the conclusion that this guy needs a neck shim. That, to me, seems like the only other issue, somewhere this neck is at the wrong angle. So I have seen this on my Jagmaster where whoever set the guitar up put a shim on there, and it worked for like 4 or 5 years. Maybe the shim compressed or something over time, and then it kind of failed, so I took the shim out after I kind of learned a little bit about it, and it actually worked really well without the shim. So I think I have added shims and all before to kind of adjust this before, in other guitars. So which angle, do we want the neck to sit at? Because we definitely do not want the headstock side to go that direction. It's already buzzing at the frets, so we need a decently low action. We need somewhat ease of play, I guess. We're not doing slide guitar, and we need to try to eliminate the string buzz as much as possible, for playing style. Could there be a shim already under here? That's hard to tell without actually taking it out. you know, taking the neck off. One hand it's not easy. So you basically take 4 screws out, and then you can pull the neck right off. So yeah, you put a shim in there to try to get the angle right. That hopefully should eliminate the fret buzz, and then maybe adjust the saddles down as low as we can get them without causing, you know, more buzz. But for right now, I think I'm going to readjust the truss rod to get lower action and see how we go. You know, of course we got action sets at the saddles, but the truss rod also, you know, the bow, it can give us a back bow or a straight bow or forward bow or whatever. So we want the action to be a little bit lower here. Alright, so we've adjusted our truss rod a little bit more, just about as good as we can do without actually having like an L-shaped Allen key. So I guess we're going to try it out, but you can probably see our Christmas lights shining, reflecting from the guitar. It looks very strange. There's like purple and green and red. So basically I used my Epiphone Les Paul Special 2 as a guide to try to adjust the height with the neck, but I didn't get it quite as low, and it's possibly because this is so high here. So after adjusting the neck, I had to re-intonate a few of the strings, and I figure it's time to try to intonate, get the low E and intonation intonated. So the screw stripped out at the back, so I have to loosen this part that lifts the string up, the height adjustment on the saddle, to really loose so I can kind of undo the screw. This kind of sucks because it can mess the intonation off if I get it somewhat right here, but let's hope for the best. So I ended up getting a set of these Allen keys versus the straight set, which is very hard to get in the neck, and it is definitely a strange set, because this is 5mm. Most of them, from what I read, are 4mm for the Epiphones. And I did a little bit more fine tuning on the guitar, on the neck, and I got the action down really low now. So despite these saddles being high, the action's low here, but then again, we may have to revisit it and consider a neck shim. But with that being said, I think I've got most of the metallic clanging, buzzing, you know, metal on metal sounds out as far as what is amplified. You can still hear it sometimes in the strings when you're playing them. Let's see if I can. There we go. It's not bad at all, but for the most part it's not being amplified. So this is probably a fairly acceptable amount of noise, as long as it's not being amplified, and as long as it's also not being taken away your sustain. So when we started out, this low E string just sounded like garbage. For now, my issue is the tremolo whammy bar is so stiff. I wonder if there's any adjustments here to make it a little less stiff. So that's what I'm going to work on now. We're definitely not going to shim the neck or anything in this video. So we may have 2 or 3 more videos of working on this guitar in the future. Whether or not I put another bone nut or something, you know, in it, or try a brass nut to try to give it some more sustain. I'm not sure about that yet. When I first was looking at this guitar, I said, let's try to put a Floyd Rose tremolo system in it. You know, it's a fairly cheap guitar. I don't have a lot of money in it. I doubt I would run the guitar, but I might blemish it up trying to make all the cuts and do everything it needed to do that. And the reason why I wanted a Floyd Rose tremolo is because I used to have an Area Pro 2 electric guitar from like the 80s. I don't know if the Floyd Rose system was kind of like the Van Halen, I guess, type system. I mean, I don't know if it was invented for Van Halen or Van Halen, just used it after it was invented. But it just reminded me of like one of my first 2 or 3 guitars I've ever owned. And that Area Pro 2, I think it probably had 2 single coil pickups and 1 humbucker on the back. And those single coil pickups were, I guess, low output and high noise, so a lot of noise in it. So I think that they were, for the most part, unusable. So I always used the humbucker, but just the memories, makes me kind of want to say, hey, let's try this. So it's 3 springs, and let's see what we can do. All right, so we've loosened these 2 screws here. Loosened them pretty significantly, so I hope that we're not going to just make it go out of tune. We might have to tighten them back up if it goes out of tune because too many whammy bar pushes. Right, we tested it out after I loosened it, and it seems to be staying in tune. We pushed the whammy bar down several times, even really hard. All the strings seem to be going right back in tune as soon as it's released. If it gives us a problem over time, we can just tighten the screw slightly, the 2 screws. So let's put it back together. Some people, I think, use 2 screws. Some use 4. I guess, if you get a really heavy gauge string, they'll use 4 springs. But most of the time, from what I read, everybody recommends no less than 3 of them. So that's what we're going to just keep 3 in there. We just loosen the tension up versus taking the middle one out, and it seems okay. I wonder if we could get a different colored back for this, like a gold one or something that has the spring holes there, like this one does. The one that came with the pick guard was solid, so it had this, of course, the string through area, but it did not have the holes here cut out for the springs. Anyway, now we can sort of give this whammy bar back to the Jagmaster. Besides the threads are smaller, it doesn't screw in there, it'll just kind of holds in there, so it can fall out easily. So what am I going to do about this pickup here? I originally thought it was the single coil only, but it acts up even in dual coil. I think it's probably the soldering to the tiny little copper, winding that is an issue. And as you move it around, there's probably some kind of tape and maybe some sort of glue or something in there that is kind of holding the connection a little bit. But then again, it loses connection as well. So I don't know if I still have time to send this back to Amazon, this loaded pick guard, or just replace it with something better, or replace just the pickup here. You start talking about a lot of money and work by just replacing, like a single pickup, when you're not really wanting to spend a lot of money, and these whole pickup systems are like, $20 to $22. Do I go with like an Alnico or whatever, try that does not have the coil splitting, for a possibly or potentially better quality, like the Chinese Alnicos, not the more expensive ones. They might be around that $40 range, I'm not sure. So maybe double the price. And I'm not sure if you get 3 pickups probably, or if it's just 2. But it's okay. I mean, I really don't find a use for this middle pickup set, anyway. From the guitars I've played, most of them had 2, some of them had 3. But I either like to play like the lead, which is back here at the bridge, or rhythm, which is up here. And, you usually have a 3-way switch to like use them singly or together. And sometimes you have a single tone, sometimes you may have a dual tone control or whatever, but yeah, I think that's probably it for this video. I was not really planning to do another video right now, but I don't know, something just told me just start working on it. So, as I said before, we may have another video or two as we work on it and add new stuff to it, including the banana boat jack, or whatever you call it, boat-like jack. Banana. I don't know if it's called banana. Anyway, yeah, I need a whammy bar that fits here, possibly a new nut, possibly do something about that, which I don't know if I want to do. Possibly a shim in the future if it bothers me that much, but I don't think it's going to bother me that much.